Hi, my name is Nicole Howden, and I am the VAWA project coordinator for Southwestern College. And this is our self-protection class being hosted by Southwestern College as a part of our consortium Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And this will be a approximately 90-minute class going through some self-defense strategies led by our very own Officer Ben Gess, and some just general housekeeping items. Please keep yourself on mute if you're not talking. And there will be a brief period for Q&A at the end of the session. So with that, I will pass it over to Ben Gess to get the class started. All right, thank you.
Thank you. So as she said, I'm Officer Ben Gess. I've been a police officer at Southwestern College for approximately 14 years, and I've been teaching R.A.D for 3.5. A couple reasons why I wanted to teach R.A.D is, according to the DOJ stats, they said roughly 1 in 5 females will be either raped or attempted rape while in their college years. So that's the students that we deal with is their college years. So I want to try and stop that and have people be able to protect themselves. And number 2 is I do have a wife and I have 2 daughters. And my daughters aren't at the age yet. They're still high school and elementary school, but I want them to be able to, I want someone out there to be able to help them protect themselves. So I'm teaching them, but there's other parents out there so that I can help them protect their daughters. We're mostly talking about females at this point. With me is my assistant. I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Andrea Perez. I'm a CSO with the campus police. I'm currently stationed over National City. I've been teaching R.A.D for approximately 5 years now. I also have past experience with mixed martial arts, approximately 10. Me personally, as a female, I find it to be very important to have some type of, not idea, but have that positivity that you can, at least if it comes down to it, to protect yourself and get away from whatever danger you encounter. So that's why I became part of the R.A.D program.
And so we just want to talk a little bit about R.A.D. The R.A.D program stands for Rape Aggression Defense. So obviously it's mostly for women. It doesn't mean it's just for women, but mostly women because they're the ones that are more likely to be sexually assaulted or raped. And obviously we're using generalities. It doesn't mean man can't be, but we're using generalities for women. So what it is the different tools and that we teach, and I want to say females, but I guess anybody really, but we cater more to females because of that. So it's the tools that we teach them to be able to protect themselves. So some of the things are, we do have a physical component and we will show demonstrations later, but right now we're going to talk about kind of some of the things that they can do to try and mitigate their chance of violence happening to them. So there's a bunch of different steps that you can do, but some of the steps are ones that we already know, right? We know usually have at least somebody with you, right? People that want to prey on or sexually assault or rape females, they tend to be one person, and they tend to be, they tend to go after, I want to say, the person that they think is the easiest victim. So it doesn't usually go after a person on how they look or age or anything like that. It's who's their easiest victim. So if you're walking by yourself, you're an easier victim than if you're a group, right? Because he's not going to try and control a group. And I say he is the attacker just because that's what we're talking about. So he can't control a group. Usually he wants to get one person. So the person that's alone, that's the person who's going to go for it. Usually they want to do it in a place that's either secluded or dark. So try and stay out of places that are secluded or dark by yourself. And then I know my daughters do this a lot, and I try and break the habit, especially they do it crossing streets, is cell phones. Everybody has a cell phone, and I even see it on campus. People are walking with their cell phone, right? They don't know where they're going. You need to be aware of your surroundings. Now, obviously, it's usually not going to happen on campus in the middle of the day when everybody is around. It can, but less likely to. But especially at night, when they're walking by themselves, walking with the cell phone, not knowing their surroundings, that is more of a chance to be attacked. And we're not just talking campus, we're talking about whenever you are outside of campus, in campus, outside campus, at home, whatever. So sometimes it's even, I'm trained to protect myself and I have other tools even when I'm off duty, but I park away from my house because it's only on-street parking, and there's a couple alleys, and I don't even go down the alleys by myself, and I know how to protect myself. So obviously try and keep yourself out of situations where it could be more dangerous. It can't always happen that way, but we try to. So we have other things like most people go to their car. So when you get to your car, instead of, I know guys don't have as much of a problem, but girls usually have purses, right? And I know my wife, half the time, the keys are somewhere in the purse. And her car is not one where it has a fob where you can just open the door. You have to actually hit the button. So she's fumbling for the keys. What you want to do is you want to make sure you have those keys in your hand when you're walking to your car, because it's already ready. So you're able to get in that car. When you get in the car, you lock the doors. Luckily, she's really good at that, locking the doors right away. But also we have the keys in our hand is because that's a tool, right? It's a metal object that's usually pretty long. My key is hidden, so mine doesn't work that way, but it's usually pretty long, so we can also use that as a weapon if needed to. So we have our keys ready. I know Andrea has been taught to lace the keys in MMA. We don't teach that because it's more likely to injure yourself. But if you have prior training, that's something you could do. It's not recommended for R.A.D unless you actually train with it, which she has extensive training, so it's a little bit different for her. There's a couple other things, like even when I go home, when I get in my door at night, if I don't have anybody at the house, like if my family went on vacation or something, I personally check the whole house. For whatever reason, I also like the shower curtain open because I hate walking in when there's a shower curtain because you never know. Maybe I've seen too many scary movies, but I open that shower curtain too because you never know what's in there. And that's just me. So I could just imagine a female that lives alone having to walk in the house. So I even check it just for me, but maybe I'm paranoid. Maybe it's because of what I do for a living. So I don't know. So there's a bunch of different things that we can do to try and make ourselves, I want to say, a harder target, because we don't want to be the easy target. Yeah.
Not really, you pretty much took all the info.
Okay.
So that's good.
Also, a lot of rapes tend to be acquaintance rapes. I don't want to say that, but it's usually not the person sitting in the bushes waiting to jump out and rape somebody. It's usually somebody you know. I know they use the term date rape. I don't like that term, and R.A.D doesn't like it because they said, if you go on a date with somebody and they murder you, is it called date murder? No, right? But it's somebody that you know. So they even say when you go on dates, especially if it's a person that you don't know or just getting to know, they, public places, they say. And it's also, they do say when you say goodbye, try and do it in the car. If you even drive together, we recommend driving separately so that you don't have to rely on somebody else, because you never know. You don't know if you don't know who that person is. So obviously my wife doesn't have to worry about me because she knows me. We've been married for 17 years, I think. 17 years. Don't show her this. But if you don't know the person, you might not want to do right in their car because you never know what that person's thinking if you don't know them. But the second thing is they say goodnight in the car, not at your doorstep. Because if you go up to your doorstep, they're pulling you up to where your house is. If you go say goodnight there and you open the door to go in, they can go in right after you. And it's something that you don't expect. So if you can mitigate the chance of that happening, do it in the car. But that also carries its own set of circumstances because Andrea has a friend.
Yeah, unfortunately, a couple years ago, she pretty much was breaking up with her ex-boyfriend, and he didn't take it very well. And unfortunately, she did get assaulted in the back of the car, which again, he was a close person who you become very close to. So it's unfortunate. It's always a possibility. So always be aware of, surroundings and stuff like that. Again, the cars, me personally, I always tell my friends, if you're going on a date that you don't know somebody, text me your address, send me your live location, etc. That way there's somebody always looking out for you just in case something may or may not happen.
And so some of these steps people have been taught, but we just like to reiterate them because we don't know what can happen out there. I know what we do teach is we do teach the physical part where it is also, if this person, it's known or unknown. We did have somebody in our R.A.D class that I believe they're getting divorced for their husband. He was fairly violent, so she wanted to be able to protect herself if something happened. So that's even, somebody she knew. We're also teaching for somebody we don't know. So there's a lot of different steps we can take to try and make ourselves, I want to say, a hard target. So those are some of them. There's a whole bunch of different other ones that we can do. Now, what we do is we do teach that. Hopefully, if you do that, it'll stop a lot of the assaults. But we said also it's close friends or some people that you know that sometimes, like she said, it was an ex-boyfriend. So we also have ways that we can try and mitigate if that doesn't work, is our body language. We do have a couple of different stances that we use. So what we call is cautious contact. And what I'm gonna I have Andrea demonstrate it because it makes more sense because she's a female, so she can demonstrate. So we have cautious contact. And so what she does is, instead of standing your feet shoulder width apart like normal, all you do is you use your strong leg, your dominant leg. For me, it's right, and for Andrea, it's also right. You use you put it back a little bit. You're at about a 45-degree angle. The reason is because you're more balanced. If you're straight, you're not balanced forward, backward. I know it's hard to see on Zoom, but if you're in like a bladed stance, you're also not balanced. So what you do is you bring that first leg back a little bit and you put your hands together, kind of like what she is. So this is cautious contact. This is kind of like if somebody that comes up to her maybe asks for the time, right? So if somebody asks you for the time, it's not always like all of a sudden get back, you're gonna rape me, but it's like you're ready just in case. So you're in a stable position, knees are bent a little bit, and you have your hands ready. And if they ask for time, you kind of bring it up and tell them the time. Police officers, that's kind of a stance that we use just to be. It's a stable stance. That's why we do that. The next stance, and it is weird for her to do, especially when it's quiet, but we're supposed to use our voice to help us. So our voice, we want to draw attention, because the last thing somebody wants is attention drawn to them if they're trying to do something to you that you don't want. So the next one is I always forget this one. It's the warning contact. So what it is you're still kind of in the same stance. You bring your hands up and you yell, "Get back!" Now, it does feel weird yelling it when there's no one around, because when we have a class full of people yelling it, it's easier for people to do it, but when you're doing it by yourself, so it's "Get back!" Now,
I forgot I was supposed to talk to him. Sorry. I feel like
I know it's because even hard for me to say it when no one else is here and it's all quiet, because we're still in our office, which is really weird. But they'll be coming in and going, "What's going on?" So your hands are up, defensive. You're still in that posture, but you're kind of down a little bit more. Your knees are a little more bent, and you have your hands up and you yell, "Get back." Now, if they didn't have any ulterior motives, they think you're crazy, but that's still okay because it's better than getting assaulted. If they did, that might scare them away. You have your hands up, get back, because this person looks a little bit more, ready than they're like, if someone comes up to you and you're kind of just standing there, they're like, okay, that person, I don't want to say is an easy mark, but it's an easy mark. And we want to make ourselves seem that we're the person that they don't want to deal with because we're going to be too hard. I don't know if that makes sense, but we want to make ourselves kind of like animals in the wild. When a bear comes at you, you're supposed to get big. You trick them that you think they're big because they're like, okay, that one is too big. I don't want to fight them. I might get hurt. I'll go for somebody else. That's kind of what we want to do. Unfortunately, we would hope that there's nobody out there that's predators out there, so we don't have to deal with it, but unfortunately there are, so we're gonna try and make ourselves the ones that they're not gonna go after. I would rather text the person, but that's a whole nother story. So we have that, the warning, get back. And then we have our last one, which is the one that we usually go to, and it's the defensive stance.
Could I just add something real quick?
Sure.
So the reason we put the hands pretty much up here is that in order to, just to be ready in case, you know, you get a punch or something like that, you're able to cover yourself and block if needed. So that's the reason we base it off, like pretty much the face area. That way you don't get hurt and you get to, you know, disoriented or by somebody hitting you, etc. So that's the reason why we do it up.
Yeah, everything pretty much want to protect the head at all costs. I mean, obviously your whole body, but the head is the, you know, you get knocked out, then you're incapacitated, then, you know, anything can happen to you. So our last one is defensive stance. And it's down here. What it is females tend to not have as much strength in the upper body. It's tend to be more the lower body. So I know Andrea, because she also does MMA, she punches the punches more up here. What we want is the hands down by the belly button. We have the knees bent, and that's still the same position that the left or your non-dominant hand is up to block. What it is when you get in this position, you go, no! You say it loud, because no, especially right here, no is English and no is in Spanish, right? We tend to be bilingual, at least in this area. I'm not, but Andrea is. But no means no, at least in this area. And most people, even then, no means no. So if you yell no, you're still getting attention. So you take a step, no. The reason we have the hand down here and the hand up here. So we have the hand down here because when we're punching, it's coming from the hips and up. Instead of coming up like with the shoulder. I know some females, like I had some friends that were swimmers, did the butterfly. So they had, you know, fairly large shoulders. They could probably punch a little bit better from upper body because they trained on that. But we're saying most women, obviously we're using generalities, it's more lower body. So we punch up. The reason we turn the hips is where we get our power from the hips. And even guys, they turn the hips if they're gonna punch because it's where the power comes from, turning the whole torso. Kind of like when a baseball hitter swings, he swings his whole body because he wants to hit that ball as hard as he can. So we punch up and we come back down. So I'll have her show a couple punches.
So, well, let's go from the side. That way, so the arm goes up here and it's closer to the area of your belly button and to your side. Then this one's always covering, just in case something, you know, they throw a punch at you, you're able to block it. Then it goes up. You can either go straight.
Yeah, we do teach fists, but there's a couple other different ways you can do it because we're going fist to face. The face tends to be more hard, so we want to use the fist. If we're going more soft tissue, you can always use, they teach you one with the bladed hand or brought in. We teach punch because it's easier for people to get a fist than to try and do this. I know a lot of people that are taught martial arts, they tend to go like this, which is also effective. The only problem is you have to know how to hit with that because you can hurt your fingers. If you put it in a fist, you're more likely to be able to, at least people that don't have martial arts training, go to a fist, they already know what a fist is. So there's a couple different ways you can do it, but that's the one we usually teach as a fist. So we bring it down and we come up. When we do it, we aim for a little bit higher because men tend to be a little bit taller. So I'm a little bit taller than Andrea, so she wants to hit me in the face. So she would have to punch up a little bit. So when we do the padding, we have them punch up. So when we use, and it's also weird to do it here, but when we punch, we yell no. So it's no. You kind of turn your hips, the back, you usually come up off the back foot. So you're on the ball of the foot, your heel usually comes up because you're turning, going forward and coming back. So we yell, no. It is weird. I know she doesn't like to do it here, but when the whole class is doing it, it's not as uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for me to say it too. So we'll show you really quickly what it looks like when she's actually hitting the pad. We do have the pads, and I taught my wife and I've taught my daughters. My daughters are younger though, so they're 11 and 15. I taught them about a year ago or so. So they're 10 and 14. Usually we want to wait till they're about 16, but they're my daughters, so I took liberty. But females, like I said, generality, tend to not be used to punching, kicking, hitting as much. I had 3 brothers growing up. We had no sisters. We had a sister. That probably would have been bad for her. But we had 3 brothers, so we wrestled all the time. I don't want to say that's what guys do, but that's what at least me and my brothers did. So we wrestled all the time. So I don't say we were violent, but we were more used to that physicality. My daughters, obviously we tell them not to punch each other. So the first time we got the pad for them to hit, it was the first time they really hit something, which, I mean, I'm proud because they're not hitting each other, but at the same time, I want them to be able to protect themselves. So sometimes it's the first time that people are able to hit something. So sometimes you can tell that it's the first time, and sometimes they really like it. Obviously, we're hitting the pad, we're not hitting each other, but I'll show you really quickly. I guess we'll do side. It's hard to show on Zoom.
Yeah.
But what we do is, we fold it up. Yeah. It's because I'll go lock it the other way. And like I said, we have it up at head level because my head is obviously higher than her head.
No. No. No.
So you kind of get that power into it. We don't, when we teach it, we don't teach go power first because we'd rather get you the technique and then the power usually comes. So the faster you, not the faster you do it, the more you're used to doing it, the more the technique comes, the power comes after. So when you get that used to it, it took my daughters a little bit because even trying to teach them how to throw a baseball, where you take that kind of step and you throw and you turn your body. It took them a little bit to try and get that coordination. So sometimes it takes a little bit of coordination. So, but it's good. So we're still in a stance. That was a punch, but we can also do movement in the stance, which I forgot to tell you. So what we do is we can move forward, backward, left, right. So we do get in the stance. We're not going to teach you how to go like 10 rounds with somebody, right? Our object is to, if you have to punch somebody, we try and punch and we try and get away to a place of safety. So we try and, that's why we use our voice, one, to get attention, because the more attention that you have on them, the less likely they are to attack you. And number 2, we want to get away. So we're not going to teach you how to punch, and do combos and all this stuff. Usually it's a couple quick strikes and it's trying to get away. So we're trying to get away, but we can always move. So in this position, if we want to move backwards, we take our back foot, take a step, and then the front foot follows. And then we back. We can also do forward. So you take the front foot, goes forward, and then the back foot follows. Also left and right. So left foot follows, or right. So that way, and the reason we kind of almost, we take smaller steps is we can keep an eye on the attacker while we're moving away. So if the attacker's still a little distance away, we can always make more distance for ourselves. And we can keep going backwards and we don't have to look behind us because we're not taking big steps. We're kind of almost dragging the foot so that, you know, if there's a curve behind us, we feel the curve. If there's stairs behind us or whatever it is, we kind of feel it so we don't have to look because we want to keep our eye on the attacker. So we can keep moving. So if we need to keep moving back to get more distance we get from them, the more reaction time, so the more likely we are to get away. So we want to increase that distance how possible. The reason we teach the punch is in case, you know, because if you're doing this and they keep walking at you, there's a point where you might have to actually use it. Now, obviously, when we're moving, no, we want to keep and we teach them. We teach to be vocal because that's usually your biggest weapon. The more, like I said, more attention. So every time we do a move, we say no. Plus, the other time, it also helps them to breathe. Sometimes you get in a situation, you kind of forget to breathe because you get like scared and you just kind of tense up and don't breathe. We want you breathing. So yelling no also helps you to breathe. Also in this position, like we have our left hand up, right? The left hand up is for 2 reasons. And non-dominant hand for me is left. What we can do is we can block or parry. So we can block where we move our arm So like if they're trying to punch us or something, or come after us, we can block and move their arms. So we use this part, like our forearm, kind of like a shield. I mean, but we use it we use it with this part of the strong part of the forearm. You got your bone there to move their attack. So we have the block, or we have the parry, and the parry we move the shoulder up. That's if they're coming up from this direction. So we still use that same part of our arm, the forearm, to help block any incoming punches, kicks, if they're throwing, whatever. So we can block or parry. We're still in the same position. We still have our knees bent. We're still, this is our position, our comfort. It's really weird when we go over the class over and over again. You just go to this automatically. It's really weird, which is good. It's muscle memory. So we block or parry. And we can show that real quick. It's kind of, like I said, hard to do on Zoom. So she's in her position, and we do block. When we come, she blocks it with that arm, block. We're doing it slow, and then we have parry. Parry. She's supposed to say no, she did catch herself, but it's hard. It is kind of hard to do because it does feel weird.
And we haven't done this for a while, so I completely blanked out on that specific detail. I'm always awkward about it. So I left it out. I'm sorry about that.
And we are in our office, so it is weird to start yelling when I know there's another meeting in the other room, but still, we'll try and do it a little bit more so you guys can hear it. So also in this position, there's a couple other different ones we can do. We have what's called a hammer fist. So instead of punching straight, we're still here, but when we do hammer fist, we bring our elbow up. The elbow's pointing to the sky, right? Then what we do is we come down with the hammer fist. So we straighten out our arm. When we do, we kind of bring our weight down. On this one, my wife, for whatever reason, this is I don't know if it's her favorite, but on this one, it's probably one of the tougher punches I've ever felt on the classes I've taught. I don't know why, she's really good at it. But you bring your elbow up, point to the sky, arm down, and you come really quick. And we'll show you really quickly on that one. Use my hand, but so the hammer fist.
No.
Hammer fist.
No.
So what we're doing is that's if obviously it's a lower one, you can do it on their head, but if you have a substantial height difference, her doing a hammer fist on me, it might be kind of harder because she has to reach up. But if they come down to try and grab somebody around the waist, hammer fist, it'll get them either the back of the head, it can get them in the back. So it's fairly, you can get a lot of power out of that because you're coming down and you bring your weight down with you. So when you do it, no, hammer fist, no. So you bring it up, bring it all down, and bring your weight down with it. So when you come down, the weight kind of comes down and you hit it on them. So it's one where you can do it in the head if they're standing. But like I said, if someone's taller, it won't work as well. But it's really good if they come down. So we're giving some tools. So those are the punches. Like we said, there are some we can use elbows if you're closer, and some of the ones where they do grabbing, we will use elbows, but for the most part, we're not going to use elbows because we want to lengthen out. If they're up close, we're not going to usually do elbow because you have to kind of step into them. It's a little bit harder. So we teach the punches, but if they grab you, then we have the elbows. So we have some kicks. We have roughly, well, technically 4 kicks, if you will. So we're still in our same stance, and we have our snap kick. Now, it's not my favorite one because it's a quick kick and it's from your off foot, but you kind of bring your foot up and you kick. You kind of kick towards the shins or the knees. If you can kick them in the knee, then that's one of the places we go for because it's a joint. If you kick them in the knee, they're less likely to be able to move. So we'll have her show you a couple of snap kicks.
There you go. This one goes up. No. No.
Right. So you come up, you kind of bring your knee up, kick out, and then come back down. So you're still, it's not as a powerful kick because you're still has your weight on your back foot. But it is one to kind of kick them away. And you're still on your back foot. So it doesn't have as much power, but it's quick. That's why we call it the snap quick. Then we have the sweep kick.
So this one's from the back one. You're a stronger leg. So this one's go, no. No.
Yeah, so this one, what we're doing is we're aiming for the groin. Pretty much their legs, if you could get it in between the legs, it goes up. So even if you hit a leg, if you keep going up, we want to go to the groin because obviously the groin is a weak spot on the male body. So go for the groin. But what it is so you're in that stance. When you kick, you go forward, you point your toe, go up underneath, but you also bring your hand up for balance and for defense. So it's no, no. And because you're turning your body, you're turning your hips, you get a little more power than the snap kick. So that's a good kick. And then we also have our last kick. So what it is you bring, more or less, you bring your knee up. It's hard to do slow, but you bring your knee up and then you kick out at them. So you're hitting more with like the heel of your foot and kind of push them back. So you're aiming for the groin or the pelvis area. So it's no. So it's kind of, you kind of push them back a little bit. It's more, instead of like a kick that you normally get, you have your foot up and then out. Like I said, it's hard to do slow motion. So it's no. So you push it, and I don't know if you can see it sideways. It's no. So it kind of brings your foot up and you kind of kick more out at them instead of kicking them. So we have roughly those three kicks, and we can show you really quick the three kicks on the pad. And I know it's a little awkward here, but when we do the pad kicking, I know a lot of people like the part, at least my daughters like when we got a kick. So do the snap kicks.
So for me, I automatically, this is wrong. So you're supposed to stay in your stance, but because my body automatically goes to the MMA stance, I'm already moving, which is wrong, but just a heads up in case I keep moving. So if this leg, you bring it up, no. Bring it up, no. Then the second one.
So then we have
the one to
the sweep kick. So this is your dominant foot. See how much stronger it is?
Yeah.
So that's the two kicks, and then we have the other kick where it's more pushing. So you're still aiming for like the pelvis area or the groin?
No. And right there, my mistake was that I let this leg go a little bit, so it pushed me as I pushed him, which can be, I mean, eventually at that point it could be bad because I could fall and lose, that what I just gained, the time that I just gained by pushing him away.
Right. So what we want to do is when you're doing that one, because you're kicking with this foot and you're trying to push, you want to kind of go forward to push. It's hard to do here because we don't get the feel of the pushback from the person, but when you kick, you push. So you do lean forward a little bit and you push them. If you do lean back too much, you will get this where you'll be off balance and the kick won't be as effective. So it's just tips to keep in mind. And then our fourth kick, which isn't a kick, is one that when we do the class, they tend to use a lot, and it's really effective, is the knee. Obviously, the knee goes to the groin. So the way we do the knee is you're in your stance, and the knee is only if they're close. Obviously, if they're further away, that's why we have the kicks, but if they're really close, you use your knee. So what you do is you grab their shoulders, and you bring your knee up and right to their groin. So you kind of pull in on them just a little bit, and you bring yourself into them. It's hard to do in the air, but we can show you with the pad. So this is if they're close. So obviously, we're back here, this is kick. If they're up here, this is knee.
No.
So see how you kind of able to pull yourself into the person, gives you leverage, and you bring that knee up and you hit right in the groin. It's really effective, and I know when we do, at the end of the class, I usually dress in a red man suit, which is, I don't know if you've seen those big marshmallow looking suit things, and we do some of the females are able to do some of the moves on us. The knee is fairly effective, so it's one that's up close and it's effective. So that's the one. That's why we teach those different moves. We do have other moves, but it's hard to show on Zoom. So some of them are wrist grabs. It doesn't translate over to Zoom, but I know my daughters like to do it where we teach them how to break the wrist. If they grab your wrists, not break the wrist, break their grab. And then we have different ones if they're doing bear hugs, if they're doing strangulation, if they're doing choking. So it's hard to do, and because of COVID times, it's more physical. We'd have to be closer, so that's why we're not going to do it right now. Maybe in a year or whatever, when COVID's over and we're able to more open up and everybody got their vaccines or whatever, we might be able to do some of that, but we're not going to do it today, just because of the world we're living in right now. So we have a bunch of different other ones to do. So those are ones where we're standing. This is our base. Now, partially because Andrea is MMA and she does jiu-jitsu, which they like to do ground fighting, we do have a little bit of stuff in case you get knocked down to the ground so that you don't just give up. So she would like to show you some of the ground stuff, and I'll let her explain some of that too.
So usually we do have we have a couple in which we are able to get off of, if you're being pinned down to the ground, or if your stomach is on the ground, etc. Unfortunately, like he said, right now because of COVID, we can't really do that. So I'm pretty much just gonna give you a basis of, in case you are on the ground and you have a person that is standing up, you are able to keep that person away from you while you are on the ground, and you are able to find a way to run from that specific scenario. So I don't know the angles here, maybe here. Yeah, so probably here. So if the point is pretty much just to be able to move on the ground and be able to use your legs as your protection. Most of your weight is going to be on your side, and your arm, which is going to be the one that's going to give you leverage to be moving around. So right now, because of the mat, it's a little bit harder. So let's say Ben is pretty much following me around. I can push my arm and my leg to this side, and one of my legs is going to be up, and it's going to be ready to kick. Whatever he does, I can move.
So what it is you want to lay so that your head is away from the attacker, because like we said, the head's the most important thing that we want to protect. So in this case, you're using the feet because if in case you're in a position where you fall over, you get knocked down, you're still able to fight. So what happens is with the weight on your hip and your elbow, if I move this way, she's able to follow me with that leg still up. And if you get close, you can kick. Usually the knee is a really good place to kick because you kick it hard enough, it goes the other way, there you go. So you keep moving around until you get a chance that you can get out. Now, if he decides to go this way, what you do is you roll so that you can spin this way. Because try and spin this way, just stand. It's harder to push that way. It's easier to push the other way, so that's why you roll. So you can follow the person until you get to a spot where you can get out. Go ahead and get out. So what you want to do is you kind of want to get away from. Like we said, the number one thing that we want to do is get away. We're not going to, it's a 10-hour class that we usually do. We're kind of trying to do it in roughly about an hour and a half. So there's a lot of stuff that we're not able to show you. Plus we do a lot of repetition for muscle memory. If you do this all the time, because when we were in training, I think it was like 24 hours, no, it was more than 24 hours in like 3 days. So we were used to being right here. So when you get muscle memory and this is where you go to, it's so much easier because that's where our base comes from. So that's why we do it over a 10-hour class minimum. So some of the stuff, we're kind of going at you kind of fast. So that's why we do have the question and answer later if we need to. So those are some of the more, I want to say, less technical ones that we have to be able to show you guys today. We do have, like I said, more. We practice on a red mat suit. We also practice on the ground fighting, and we practice holds. And like I said, because of the time we're in right now with COVID and spreading COVID, we're gonna forego those. So we're just gonna reiterate on, we're not gonna be able to teach you how to completely just fight everybody and stand there and take blows and, punch people and kick people. We also don't teach in this RAD class weapons. If somebody has a weapon, well, for any of these, we're just giving you tools. Whatever you decide to do is what you decide to do, and that's what's right for you. So we just give you tools that you can use. But if they have weapons, we do not train on how to disarm people or do weapons in basic RAD class. They do have some RAD classes that they do weapon training on, but that's also after you do the normal RAD class because so you have a basis. So I did have a woman, I guess, in one of my classes that did ask about weapons. And unfortunately, we don't teach weapons because we're trying to teach you the self-defense, the basic self-defense. Afterwards, you could go and take a different class on weapons. So we usually train on one attacker, not multiple attackers, because it's usually one attacker. Like I said, generality, we're still using usually one attacker. Usually we're teaching without weapons, but there might be attackers with weapons, so we don't teach that. But we also teach you to try and get away. So in the actual class, when we do these drills, we do have the person get up and try and run to the nearest door. So know where your exits are. Obviously, we have our exit, which is the door, but wherever you're going, know where your exits are. Obviously, your house, you know where your exits are. But when you're walking in a store, know where your exits are. When I go to a restaurant with my wife and my kids, they know where the exits are, but I watch the front door. That's just me personally, maybe just the paranoia that my job that I do, but I watch the front door, and it's really funny because my wife, I used to let her walk first to the table because they show you to the table, and she would take the far one being nice, which makes sense. She'll take the far one instead of taking the close one. But it's every time the far one is the one facing the door. So now she knows to take the close one because I want the one that faces the door. So we know where our exits are because we want to get away. So even if you're walking, in a parking lot, it doesn't mean there's an exit because it's open, but know where the best lighting is, where people are, because we want to, the more people we have with us, usually the better chance that the attacker will either stop attacking or he will also run away. So we want to move to, we say a place of safety, but we want to know where the exits are.
So just to add on, so we just, so RAD teaches you the basic points where it could be a good place to hurt somebody. I mean, we don't want to hurt people, but in order to defend yourself.
Targets.
The targets, that's a better word. So some of the targets would be, I'm going to use Officer Gess here, would be the torso. For men, of course, the groin. You got the eyes, that could go straight, poke the eyes, whatever, that's disabilitate them. The shins. So for the shins, we go through this with the bear hugs usually, but just as an example to kind of explain why is one of the points would be if you scrape with your foot or with your shoe, the shin, that's usually one of them, and the foot, the top of the foot.
Yeah, so it's with the outside of your shoe. You scrape it down their shin. The shin do have a lot of nerve endings in it, so it does hurt when you do it. But we also, you could go for their fingers and their knees. We don't really teach biting, but if someone's trying to attack you, sometimes the rules are out. So if that's all you can do is bite, bite. If you have nails, or even if you don't have nails, claw if you need to. We do teach you some of the strategies we have, but if you have to do what you have to do. And I know sometimes some of the girls are a little squeamish on some of the stuff, but what I have to remind them is this person is attacking you. So they're going to attack you to either hurt you or assault you or rape you or whatever. Then do what you need to do. So sometimes we teach them to hit in the groin and grab and pull. And they're kind of like, but I'm like, you do understand, you have to, and it's hard for people to put themselves in that situation. This is somebody that does not care about your well-being and wants to hurt you. So do what you need to do. Because we're so taught not to hurt other people, it's hard for them to put in the mindset as this person actually wants to hurt you. So we have to try and remind them of that mindset of you need to protect yourself at all costs because you're the most important person to you. So try and do anything you can do. But like we said, what we want to try and do is mitigate the situation. That we try not to put ourselves in that situation, then we don't have to worry about it. So that's why we try and be aware of our surroundings. I know when I go jogging at night, which I try not to do, the earbuds, I like to listen to music, but I usually have one in. I don't like the ones that like fill your ear completely and it's like noise canceling headphones because you can't hear people around you. I don't really have a fear of getting, raped, but it doesn't mean somebody can't try and, take your phone or take your wallet or whatever, or even just hurt you. So I like to still at least know what's going on, even though, so I only have one in, it's not the noise ones. I don't listen to my music too loud, just because I want to still be able to be aware of my surroundings. When I come home at night, if I'm off street parking, like I said, I walk in the lit area and I'm aware of my surroundings because it's dark. Now, if I start yelling, obviously people will start waking up and you see lights flip on and stuff. So, but you want to make sure you're aware of your surroundings, because if I see somebody, block over, I'm going to keep kind of an eye on them because I don't know their intentions. Now, they might not even notice you, or they're just walking, someplace too. But that's why I said you have to be aware of your surroundings. And I know it's a lot to put on females, but most of the attackers are men. And like I said, most of the I don't want to say victims, but victims are females. So as a female, that's why I'm teaching my daughters to at least be around their surroundings and be able to protect themselves. And that's why I do like to teach R.A.D. And it is nice interacting with the students too. And you see the confidence sometimes in the students grow because they're kind of, at least they're more, even if not able to protect themselves, which I think they are, they have that confidence of, okay, I am able to control my situation. So they're more aware of what's going on and they're able to have that confidence that they can take care of themselves. So that's part of, you see their confidence change throughout the course, which is really nice. So by the end of the course, they're usually, they got that confidence that, yeah, I can do this. So that's what I'm trying with my daughters. Granted, they're younger. So they're 15, 11. So they're still younger on the side of R.A.D. I still see them at least every now and then. They come up to me, and I think I taught the last class with them was about a year and a half ago. They still come up and say, grab my wrists, because they want to be able to break it. So it is nice that at least some of the stuff they're keeping up, and every now and then I'll tell them defensive stance. And sometimes it takes them a little bit to remember exactly defensive stance because it's been a little bit, but they still go to their defensive stance. They do want to punch, but I'm not wearing the red mat suit, so I say, no, you can't punch me. But it is nice that at least some of the stuff is still sticking. And every now and then I do see some of our former students, and sometimes they still go, oh yeah, I remember some of it, but it's able to, they have a book that has the different steps in it, so they can go through it every now and then. I know some of them would practice on their boyfriends, which we don't recommend because we don't want you actually hitting them, but they do practice. So it's something that you have to keep practicing because you will forget it if you don't do it that often. So it's one of those skills that we teach, but whenever we do another RAD class, you're welcome to come. We do the RAD classes for free, so it's no payment. So our class we do for free. We try and do it roughly twice a year, but with COVID and they'll be on campus right now, we're unable to teach it. But hopefully, I think it's going to be opening up fairly soon, so we might be able to do some. And like I said, we do have a self-defense for women class, at least here at Southwestern College. Hopefully, it will be in the spring of 2022, so almost a year away. Hopefully, they'll be able to bring it back where we actually teach over the, I believe it's 16 weeks, we teach the RAD class. So we do have an in-school or a classroom portion that is taught by one of the exercise science teachers. And then we have the practical portion where I come in and I help teach the practical portion. So it is a lot of movement and punching and kicks and stuff. So you get to actually have fun hitting things and learning the practical side. So some of the physical side that we're able to do today, and hopefully we'll be able to do that in the spring. We do have Melanie Durkin, who is the exercise science teacher. She is supposed to be here at roughly 3 o'clock, so she should be here in a couple minutes. She should hopefully be able, as long as Zoom, we had a little trouble at least first connecting, but as long as she's able to get on, she's actually going to talk a little bit about the portion that she does in her class. But it's she teaches some of the stuff like some of the stuff we already talked about, but she teaches about the buddy system. She teaches about self-care and some of the other things. So it is good to get both sides of it. I teach more of the practical side, where ours is, after mitigating the circumstances, the physical part of it, how to protect yourself if the other, I guess, tools don't work, to try and not have them, to make yourself not a victim. So she teaches the other part on how to, on some of that stuff, but also on taking care of yourself. And hello, Melanie.
Hi, Melanie.
Would you like to?
Hi, everybody.
Would you like to go on your part?
Gosh, are you guys ready for me? Sure. I thank you for allowing me to jump on late. I was actually teaching a girls middle school self-defense class at my gym in Scripps Ranch. So that was kind of fun. I wasn't sure exactly what would be the most interesting thing to share, but I kind of put together a little presentation I thought I could go over with everybody. If you don't mind, I share my screen here and we can kind of take a look at the 4 risks that we discuss in self-defense training. Can you guys see that? Is my screen sharing with you? Yes? Okay, wonderful. Well, as we know, what we want to do is just minimize any opportunity at all to be a victim of any kind of crime. And when we look at the 4 risks and we study more and learn more about how we can minimize anybody's opportunity to put us in the wrong position, that is a huge step in the right direction with our self-defense education. So we have risk awareness, risk reduction, risk recognition, and risk avoidance. And these are all very simple, but when thought ahead of time, can make a huge difference in just small little decisions that could possibly contribute to us being at the wrong place at the wrong time. This is really 90% of our self-defense education, is looking at minimizing these risks for our own safety and not to be relying on anybody else. We have a victimization triangle that we look at with the victim and the assailant. And the whole idea is to learn how to trust our instincts, to listen to that little voice, to listen to our gut, and to reduce any opportunity that someone might have when coming anywhere near us. So I love this from the R.A.D book, this statement that the only confrontation you are guaranteed to survive every time is the one you're never involved in. So the idea is to get the training. The idea is to be prepared and to understand how to minimize opportunity, but then also how to find ourselves not in that situation and not needing to step up and defend ourselves. We can be defenders and survivors though at the same time. So in my class, I spend a lot of time on empowerment and self-care and resiliency. Resiliency is a huge one. No matter if something happened that was unplanned or planned or whatever, it's having the ability to move on and heal and survive whatever is in our past. So if we look at these risks, and we look at things that we can do to minimize risk reduction, we can take all these various areas in our home, at school, at work, our commute. I know I'm a runner, and so I always have to kind of think about my running routes that I'm doing. What time of the day am I doing it? Who am I going to meet? Is it going to get dark on me? Am I parking in a parking lot that isn't very well lit? So it's basically assessing the situation and almost learning how to do that instinctively. So from our morning activities, getting ourselves to work, doing errands, whatever it is, just having this cognizance, this awareness of what could potentially be something that's, you know, problematic, that would put us in a vulnerable position. Certainly we talk a lot about dating. We talk a lot about socializing. I'm a college professor, so my population that I work with every semester is typically in this class, it's all women, which is great. And so there's certainly socialization at parties, being on campus for evening classes, parking on campus, even just dating and online, you know, online dating and meeting people online that you don't really know. So assessing the risk, assessing what you're doing to just make all of those situations safer. It doesn't mean that you don't do any, it doesn't mean you don't socialize, it doesn't mean that you don't take an evening class where you have to, you know, be on campus in the dark. It doesn't mean that you don't, you know, visit an online dating site or something to meet people, but you have a plan. You have a plan that you're not alone. You talk to friends, you have kind of a posse, a group of people that have your back and know where you're going and know what your schedule is. And you've thought ahead of time to reduce your risks. I also love this statement, and this is out of our R.A.D book. If you act like a victim, chances are good that you will become a victim. So I think when we assess our risks just instinctively, we've had self-defense training, we've practiced mentally, we've done the mental reps to keep us empowered and confident. What starts to happen is it changes our posture. It changes our voice. It changes the command that we have in a room. And we start to not look like the vulnerable, you know, maybe easy prey that someone could unintentionally think of us. So we want to carry ourselves that way in any type of a setting. Let's see, let's move down here. I really do love this color-coded awareness that we use. When you're taking up a self-defense training for the first time, you're starting to pop into classes or showing up on Saturdays or signing up for a whole semester class, that's when we're in the white zone. That's when we're seeing the need to be prepared, and we're spending the time and the commitment for getting trained. So that's what we call kind of the color code of awareness as far as being kind of like white, which is where we want to start. When we look at yellow, we call that cautious contact. We are aware that it's getting dark. If I'm on a run, it's getting dark, I still have another mile to go. I have the decision that I could turn around because I'm not so sure about what's coming up on my run. I'm not so sure if I'm comfortable getting back to my car so dark. I'm going to make a decision. I'm being cautious. There isn't anything necessarily dangerous at the moment, but I'm listening to that little voice. I'm doing a risk assessment and I'm giving something a second thought. Orange is a warning contact. I have a perception that somebody is watching me. I have a perception that I'm feeling uncomfortable. Maybe I don't like the look of somebody. Maybe I don't like the look of a certain area. Maybe I just, whatever it does, it doesn't matter. At this point, I'm not trying to be politically correct. I'm not trying to not offend anyone. I'm not thinking that, oh, I'm, I don't know, being, a racist or something. I'm doing something. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to think of my own self. I'm going to think of my own safety. And if I get a little feeling inside of my gut that I need to get out of that situation, I'm going to get out of that situation. Okay. So that's orange. And it could be something that I'm avoiding, a potentially dangerous situation. Red is I'm in a defensive stance. I'm actually in a confrontation. I'm going to need to start to use the the techniques that I've learned in a R.A.D program, and I'm on the defense. Okay. So we want to think about always kind of carrying around that sense of that color code to assess our risks and to reduce our risk of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Failure to react or ineffective thoughtfulness is color black, and that's just caused most of the time by a lack of practice or preparedness or freezing or not practicing ongoing throughout every day, just kind of basic risk assessments. So white, yellow, orange, red, and black. Those are our different colors of reducing risks and keeping ourselves kind of in these safety zones. I think that our habits are healing and are hanging strong no matter where we're at in our life. If we're overcoming a trauma, maybe we're overcoming an attack, maybe we are overcoming just a close encounter, maybe we're overcoming a date rape situation or just a really creepy, uncomfortable dating situation. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Our habits and keeping ourselves strong, taking care of ourselves, and what we call it is self-care, is only going to make every situation better. Every situation. So the fact that we are exercising regularly through the week, that we are eating healthy, that we are aware of our alcohol and our drug consumption and minimizing that, reducing that completely, not putting ourselves in situations where we are unable to use our risk assessment and our defense mechanisms that we've learned. All of those ways that we do self-care to keep ourselves healthy and strong and love ourselves and work on that is only going to put us in a place where we can handle whatever comes on our path. I do an assignment with my students where I have them create on paper a perfect week of exercise and eating and socializing, and what does that look like for you? How much socialization do you need in a week to be, kind of satisfied and happy and comfortable? And that'll be different for everybody, right? And I mean, some of us maybe don't need any of that, hardly any, and other people are every night they want to go out and they want to socialize, and that's fine. Whatever is the right answer for you, you want to just know that about yourself, and then you can kind of put together what a plan is for you, and just sort of see where your repetition is, where you're frequenting. Again, I use the example of being a runner. I'm an avid runner. I can't not run in a week. I need to figure out, where can I run? Where can I run safely? What time of the day can I run? Who's my running partner? And I just know myself. I know if I don't run, I'm grouchy with my kids. My personality changes, honestly. It's like, I just need to I don't need to run every day. I don't run every day, but I need to get in a certain amount of runs. And so that is understanding what I need to be healthy and strong and happy and kind of the best version of me. But that comes with a risk assessment, because there definitely can be vulnerable situations that I can get myself into very quickly. And that has certainly happened to me multiple times and contributes to me exploring this and you know, kind of really diving in deeper with self-defense training and trying to get other women trained as well. I also have a fun drill that we use to improve self-esteem. And that is being able to look at yourself in the mirror, look at yourself eyes to eyes, and say nice things to yourself that you really mean. Tell yourself that you love yourself and that you are strong and that you believe in yourself and that you believe that you're making the right decisions and that you're on the right path. And that's a simple exercise, but I can't tell you how difficult it is for people. It can be very, very difficult, but it's important to work towards that so that we have that confidence and that ability to handle whatever comes across our path. So those were just, you know, kind of just, you know, an overall general kind of get started with why and how we can use self-defense training from our self-defense class that Ben and I were able to team teach together, which was so much fun. Ben was able to come in and do the R.A.D training, and we did the full 10 weeks of it, and we look forward to being back on campus and doing that again, right, Ben?
Yes, I did say that it looks like we might be able to possibly do that in the spring.
Yes, that is the plan. They're bringing back partial classes, lab classes. We certainly count as a lab class. And they're bringing back partial classes in the fall, kind of getting a little bit of a slow start, but in the spring, I have it set in our schedule, and I am planning on it. So I hope you are planning on it as well.
I'll be ready. I'll be ready.
Great.
So what we did is we did go over some of the moves. Obviously, we can't do the ones that are the bear hug and stuff like that, but we did show them the punches and kicks and some of the things that we do.
Awesome.
And then we did talk a little bit about risk avoidance. I didn't use the actual terms, but like I said, we try to teach them to not be in the situations so that they're able to we teach them the physical part, but we want to teach them to try not to even get to that point. So that's the point that we try to avoid. And
absolutely. And I think when you think about like everybody's day, you know, what your day includes with your work, with your exercise, with your, you know, running errands, with all of the different activities that you have, it's amazing how many small little potential risks could be there. So I think getting into the habit of assessing that and having that be just kind of part of your overall awareness just regularly, not only when you're going to go out at night and park in a dark parking lot. Like, I think sometimes people reserve that risk awareness for too small of a time, you know, and they don't think about, oh, wow, my exercise session could be actually a place where I'm vulnerable. A lot of attacks happen, you know, in daylight. It's not like it's just, you know, the lights go off and then all the bad guys come out. So it's like we need to kind of think about our more frequent activities that we do and bring that education that we learn from that R.A.D manual and from our self-defense training into our day.
right, and for me personally, maybe it's because of my job in law enforcement. I'm always, not always, but I try to always be aware of my surroundings and what's going on. Obviously, our job can be dangerous, so especially when I'm in my uniform, we're always looking around and always have awareness. I still do it off duty too, not as to a certain extent, because I don't want to say we're a target when we're on duty, but we kind of, to some people, to the people that we're worried about, we are a target. You know, so 99% of the people we're fine with is the 1% that we're, so I do it personally all the time. Unfortunately, the world we live in, females have to do it too. And it can get tiring at first trying to know what's going on, where everything is, you know, escape routes, stuff like that. But once you do it enough, it kind of comes, I want to say, second nature. So it's a little bit easier to know kind of what's going on around you. And unfortunately, that's the world that we live in, that unfortunately females have to do that because males.
Absolutely. And I think that's what's so great about the R.A.D manual being like a 10-week, typically, you know, or 10-session program. And then our class is even more than that. It's a whole semester. So that's 15 weeks. And it takes more than just going, you know, to a one Saturday sometimes. You know, you want to really try to incorporate this and get a good experience of training, because you're right, it really then becomes more instinctual. But I always tell people, just start with anything. Anything is better than nothing. Start with a free 1-hour class, right? That's better than not doing it.
And for at least myself, we don't charge for our R.A.D classes. So we've put a bunch of different ones on. Some people come more, some people come less. We try and do at least 10 weeks just so that we get the muscle memory and we can get through the session. It is nice to have your class too, because you have that extra component of a lot of the other stuff that you do, which is nice. So it's nice to at least get that level so that you know kind of what to do in situations. And like I was saying earlier, I like to see the confidence on the students like grow.
Absolutely.
Some you see incremental, some you see just a big increase of confidence. So I like being able to give the students confidence that they're able to take care of themselves. So that's
absolutely
the thing with that. Obviously, we try and do it so that we stop the sexual assaults from happening, but we also do it to help the student just for life. So I know we have very few people, I think, participating right now, even though it will be put on YouTube later, I guess. Do we have any questions?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions that I had put together for this. So thinking to specific situations dealing with COVID, and like now people can be kind of freaked out if someone is just kind of moving too close to them. Like if you're out in public, what kind of strategies would you recommend in those types of situations where someone isn't actively trying to attack you, but you can tell they're like trying to do something malicious by coming too close to you and invading your space?
Well, the first thing is like what we talked about a little bit of was trying to get the distance. The reason we want more distance between us is reaction time. So part of what we were talking about is even in our conscious contact or in our defensive stance, we still taught how to move. Now, obviously, you know, if they're not attacking you, you don't have to be in defensive stance, but you could slowly, you know, move. So you slowly move back. You try and get that distance. And like what we always tell you is try to get to a place of safety. So we did say, even if you say no while you're moving away, okay, some people might be, okay, that person's a little crazy, but would you rather be thought of crazy by people you don't know and be safe than not be safe? So still try and get that distance. Try, like we said, the avoidance. If there's somebody that is doing something that you don't like and they could be a potential threat, then try and get yourself out of that situation. Does that help?
Yeah, I think that helps. Oh, go ahead, Melanie.
Yeah, no, I also just think being able to use your voice, you know, I think that's a tool, a weapon that we use in this type of training is to use your voice and to have the confidence and be empowered enough to say, excuse me, I need more space. I need more room. You know, could you move back? And having the confidence that there's nothing wrong with asking for that. When you're feeling and you're feeling that in your gut and that little voice is telling you that your inner, your little bubble is your safe circle has been, you know, kind of touched, then you need to first always start with communication and start with your voice. It's not like we're going into, you know, full fight mode too fast. But I think you're right that that is going to be coming up, Nicole, that we all isolated for over a year almost, right? And it's gonna be interesting to see, you know, the ramifications from that, and the people's attitude as people start to get into the public more, and, you know, start to get into more crowds, and, you know, businesses start to be feeling, and classrooms start to feel more full of people. It will be in an interesting dynamic that we'll have to, you know, kind of navigate.
Yeah, agreed. And I'll be interested to see what happens once more campuses start having in-person learning again, just because we're in a different world now, and so much has changed since, you know, the last time things were, you know, normal, like over a year ago. So it'll just be interesting to see. I guess another question I have, and I thought about this myself just for, you know, when I used to work downtown, often I would feel extremely unsafe just walking back to my car. And I would try and come up with strategies, you know, like making sure I always walked with someone else, so I wasn't ever going alone. But even so, like, I would still feel unsafe, or like, you know, until I was actually in my car and the door was locked. What advice would you give people like me that have these anxieties, especially as they start like in-person work again?
Well, I have a couple things. One, obviously, if you take self-defense, I know it's not a be-all, but they also you do have some things that you could have. Pepper spray is legal for people to have, so you can carry pepper spray. Like I said, all of these, it's not an end-all be-all, but there's also a lot of different keychain type things that they have for self-defense. There's one that kind of looks like a cat, where you're able to put your fingers through, and it's not illegal, but that's one thing. They also have these, I forget what they're called, but they're the like little sticks that you can put on your keychain, that if you're properly trained in it, you can use that to defend yourself. Granted, at least in San Diego County and I think California, firearms are not a viable option, just because the ability to be able to do that to protect yourself is a higher level ability, and there's classes you have to take and certain other things you have to do. And some people aren't comfortable with firearms. But there is a couple, you know, some of those things that you could do to try and help protect yourself. Like I said, pepper spray, some other things, and some of the avoidances were at least know your surroundings, so that when you're walking, you can kind of tell people following you or people around, you know, make sure, you know, like Melanie was talking about well-lit areas, even when she goes for her runs or whatever. So at least, you know, try and park where there's a lot more people around, or open spaces, so you know the exits.
Yeah, and I would also say, again, speaking up to your employer and being honest that you are, you know, a little bit uncomfortable, and you might be surprised that they even have, you know, some type of an escort service, or that you could get walked to your car, that you know, that they do support you, obviously getting, you know, to your car safely, and, you know, if it's maybe at the end of the day or something. So I think being comfortable speaking up and making sure that you have the support. I know on a college campus, you can call up and, you know, students can get assistance, or someone can meet them, and, you know, and there's more help and assistance, I think, a lot of times than people think there is, but it requires you speaking up. It requires you voicing that you're uncomfortable with this, or is there any, you know, is there another place that I could park? You know, all of the parking lots that I've been finding, I just feel like it's a kind of a long, scary walk, and maybe there's another area that they could, you know, make available to you. But I definitely agree with what Ben said, as far as the more that you are training yourself, the more time you're taking to do your own risk assessment, and having just, you know, that cat, the cat claw, I don't know what the official name is, but I have it, and I've seen them, and they are awesome, and even kind of cute too. Cute and awesome. Cute and deadly, the best combination. And something like that is just such a simple personal thing. You'll probably never use it, but you know what? You've got it. And when you're walking to your car, it's just your spine's going to be a little straighter, your chin's going to be a little higher, and you're going to have a little bit more confidence that you're exuding. And that's what it's about. That's what it's all about.
And I know on campus, we do have escort services. So if you want to be walked your car on campus, that helps. If it's off campus, or like you said, downtown, maybe And it all depends on, but maybe you could carpool with somebody so that they're walking with you to your car when you go and leave. I know sometimes people stay later or whatever, your different work schedules, but you might be able to have somebody with you that when you guys carpool so that you walk to the car together or something along those lines.
I think those are great strategies. Thank you for that. Let's see, another question I have is, in your opinion, I'm just curious about like statistics with COVID and everything, have attacks gone up or stayed the same or gone down during these times? Do you know?
I'm not sure, but I believe they have stranger attacks have gone down because people aren't, but there's been a lot more of domestic violence that's gone up, partially because people are home together more, so there's more opportunity for it. But domestic violence has gone up. Now, I say domestic violence because that's what the calls come in, at least because we don't have on-campus housing. We don't really deal with the sexual assaults as much as ones that have on-campus housing. But even out Chula Vista, the domestic violence has gone up. But it comes as domestic violence, but the domestic violence also includes sexual assault and rape of spouse or cohabitant. So those have actually gone up. And I know worldwide when I look at the stats, and I think most of it is fairly accurate here too, where you're more likely to be raped or sexually assaulted by your live-in partner, or even not live-in boyfriend, girlfriend, than you are to a stranger. But that's why even when we teach it, the strategies we teach and the tools that we give you, the techniques, are able to be used on anybody. So since COVID, I know some of it has gone up, some has gone down, depending on how you look at it.
Okay, that's interesting to know. I don't personally have any more questions. May, do you have any questions you want to ask Melanie or Ben? We can't hear you.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Officer Gess, CSO, Andrea, and Professor Durkin for providing this really, really informative session for us. I know, Officer Gess, you talked about how this, the content of this session is really not geared towards situations where the alleged perpetrator has like a weapon or threatens someone with a weapon. So, I mean, what's the recommended procedure for when that type of situation arises? Do you, like, as a victim, do you just sort of follow along and try to find a way to get out of the situation?
Well, first off, however you act, that's the right way for you to act. So whatever you do, that's okay with. If you want to go along, if you want to fight, we're not saying you did anything wrong. You do what you think is best for you. But on that, we, at least for the basic R.A.D course, we do not teach weapon tactics, because we're at the basic level, and we're trying to teach you at least some of the things to do if they're unarmed. They do have additional R.A.D classes where they teach where they have weapons and how to disarm or get away from people with weapons. Also, we try and teach the best techniques that we found, but it's also not going to be 100% effective. So there's no way to 100% make sure that it doesn't happen to you. It's just the best techniques we have found to be able to do that. But there are additional R.A.D classes that will teach you how to, be able to go, if somebody has a knife or a gun, or what you can do, or what are some of the situations you can do. But the reason we teach the basic first is so that you get that baseline understanding, so that you're then able to go to advanced class. So it's kind of like in school, my kids, you learn adding and subtracting, then you go to multiplication, division, and then you go to, other things. well, we're teaching adding and subtracting so that you get the base so that you can move into the other ones. We personally do not teach that on campus. But those ones, there are other places out there. I know, like I said, Andrea does MMA fighting. So some of that stuff probably comes up with weapons. So there is other places you can go. Unfortunately, for what I teach, I do not teach the weapons. But there are places out there that you can actually learn from on how to defend yourself with weapons.
Well, thank you so much. I don't have any other questions.
Oh, thank you, both of you, Ben and Melanie. Thanks so much for leading this for us, and I hope that more people will watch on YouTube as well once we upload this. I'll probably try and get this uploaded later today, as long as the video downloads quickly to my computer. So please, both of you, if you have any students or anyone that might be interested in watching, I'll share the link with you once I have it, and then please spread the word to anyone that might be able to use this as a resource. And then just also, I'm just going to end with kind of a trigger warning that anyone that happens to be watching this, if you need help in any capacity, you can please feel free to reach out to Center for Community Solutions or South Bay Community Services if you are having any trouble with domestic violence or assault. And all this content was presented as a part of Sexual Assault Awareness Month by the Consortium Against Campus Violence for San Diego. So again, thank you both for leading this. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now.